welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Stephanie, and in today's video we're going to be discussing 5 tips about teaching placements. Thinking about going into teaching, or if you're about to go on teaching placements yourselves, I understand you're all probably really nervous and are really worried about what's going to happen on placement, but I'm here to tell you that it's all going to be fine if you just follow these 5 very simple tips. Tip number 1. Soak up everything you can learn during your observation time. Now, most teaching programs will give you about a week when you first go into your teaching rounds, where you observe your mentor and the students that you'll be teaching. So during this time, I think it's very vital that you really watch the teachers that are going to be mentoring you and watch what they do. Try and pick up some tips and tricks on what they do during classes that you yourself can use during your own teaching strategies. This is also a really good time to start getting to know the students a little bit, seeing how they behave in classes, what tics and mannerisms they have during classes that the teacher might not know teaching them at the front of the class, but you're able to see from the back of the class. Also use this time to ask questions of your mentor and of other teachers around you, because this is a place where you're going to be learning the vital tips you need to be able to become a good teacher. So ask questions, view people, ask if you can maybe sit on some other classes. This is the time teachers are happy to have you in the classroom just to observe and just sit back and watch. It's a great time to gather all the information you need and implement it into your own studies. Tip number 2. Be organised. Now, this is something I struggled with on my placements because I thought I was a very organised person generally, but going into placements I soon discovered that I'm not as organised as I thought I was. Now, when you're going to be a teacher, organisation skills and time management skills are big things that you need to be able to do to successfully teach classes. If this is something you struggle with, I would highly suggest that you invest in a good planner. My planner, this is what I've used for the whole year, and during my placement, this was my best friend. I wrote down whenever there was a test coming up that I needed to get ready for, if there were a lesson plan that I had to write for the next day, if I had questions that I wanted to ask the teachers, and I would just jot it down in here so that I could go back to it later. But this, having a good planner, is key to keeping yourself organised. And plus, it's really just easier to have everything written down in one spot so you don't forget anything and you don't lose any important papers that you think you might need in order to design lesson plans. On the same note as lesson planning, during this observation period, it's very, very, very highly recommended that you make time with your mentor to sit down and discuss with them some lesson planning ideas. When you start designing lessons for yourself and when you start teaching lessons, you have a bit of knowledge on where the students are going to be going with their lessons and where your mentor would like to see the students achieve. So having a time to sit down with your mentor and discuss some ideas and some tricks and some tips that you want to implement in your teaching is very, very helpful. Also, one thing I would highly recommend is that you write out your lesson plans before the class and show it to your mentor. You can look over it and help you fine-tune any little details that might come up in your lesson planning that may need to be altered, or maybe they can give you suggestions on how to improve something. But yeah, so make sure you go over your lesson plans with your mentor before the classes, and I mean 2 days before, a day before if possible. And this leads me into tip number 3. Building relationships while on placement is key. Not only relationships with your teachers and your mentors, but also your students. You're going to be on placement for a long time, so it's important to build relationships with these people so that you feel more comfortable with them and you're not afraid to go up and ask them questions, or if something doesn't work out, the teacher can help you out and you don't feel bad about it because they're there to help you just succeed. So don't be afraid to go up and ask them questions. Also, when you have those strong connections in place, you're less afraid about making mistakes. And when you're less afraid of making mistakes, your placement will go so much smoother and you'll be so much more relaxed. And when you're relaxed, your students will see that as well, and they themselves will also feel relaxed in your class. Students will test you. This is something that is just universally known, that when a new teacher comes in, the students act up and want to see what they can get away with and push your buttons. So don't get discouraged if this happens to you during placement. This is just all part of the relationship building process. They want to see what you will let them do and what they can get away with that maybe their normal teacher wouldn't let them do. So it's important that you establish this relationship with your students and let them understand that yes, you're there to teach them, yes, you're a student too, but you also need to be treated with respect. For me personally, when I teach, I like to have jokes with my students. I like to muck around and like play games with them, of course educational games, but I like to be able to have that almost friendship with my students, because I tend to find when you're able to have more of a joke with the kids and have a bit more of a laugh, they're a lot more likely to have less behavioural issues. They're less likely to act out because they feel like they can be themselves. They don't have to constantly worry about getting into trouble for doing something. So I like to be able to have fun with my kids and play some jokes. But at the same time, my students know that when I need them to be serious and we need to get down to business, that they will get down to business. We can have a joke, it needs to get done, they know that it needs to get done, and they will crack down to it. Tip number 4, don't be afraid to try new things. Placement's all about learning and experimenting and trialing things. So if there is a particular technique or a strategy that you've read about that you would like to try in one of your classes, give it a go. Your mentors are going to encourage you to try new things and to see what works for you. On that same note, don't get discouraged if something you want to try out doesn't work. It's completely normal. Try this technique in one class and it works really well and you love it and the students love it and it just goes great. And then you try it again in another class and it completely bombs. Now, I can't tell you how many times this has happened to me in classes, but it's fine. You just look back over it, figure out why this didn't work for this particular class, or extenuating circumstances where it just didn't fit in that class that day. But don't give up, keep trying, and why not, you'll have a little bank of tasks and tricks that you can implement in your teaching. And final tip number 5 is get involved in the school's community. What I mean by this is get involved in sports carnivals, in plays, in bands and excursions. If you get the opportunity to be involved in those sort of things on placement, do it. It is such a good opportunity and you learn so much doing it. I was lucky on my placement that I actually got to attend a Year 9 overnight camp, and it was a really good experience. I got to build connections with the kids outside of school and they got to know me outside of school, and we forged this really great friendship and it was lovely. It was great to see them relax and not take things so seriously because they weren't in the confines of school, and just let loose and have fun. Not only looks good on you as a teacher that you're willing to participate and get involved in school activities, but it's also really good for your CV. So alright guys, I think that'll be it for today. The light's fading and it's getting late, so I'm gonna let this go right here. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're new, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. I post videos every Tuesday and Friday, and I will see you guys later. Bye.